In a world filled with uncertainty, doubt, and trials, many of us are waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for something miraculous to happen in our lives. The days stretch long, and at times, it feels as if hope is slipping away. But today, something is different. Something stirs in the air. God has a message for you. Prepare for a miracle. Are you ready to receive it? Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the challenges you've been facing, the prayers you've whispered in the quiet of the night. Now, imagine a shift, a breakthrough unlike any you've ever experienced. This is what God has prepared for you. But first, your heart must be ready. Today, you'll discover how to prepare for that miracle. It all begins in the quiet moments, in the space between hope and despair. Picture the scene, a man named John, standing alone by the shore of an endless sea. The waves gently lap at the sand, yet the horizon seems impossibly distant, as though it stretches beyond what the eye can fathom. John has stood here many times before. He has prayed, wept, and whispered his heart's deepest longings to God. He has waited years for a miracle, but nothing seems to change.
Is there a purpose in my waiting? Why do I feel forgotten, as if my prayers have drifted into the silence, unanswered?
In these moments of quiet anguish, John wonders if God has truly heard him. The days blur into weeks, the weeks into years, and yet, no sign of the miracle he so desperately needs. His heart is heavy, weighed down by the burden of uncertainty. But what John cannot see, what his weary soul has yet to realize, is that his miracle is far closer than he thinks. God is not distant. He has been listening all along, working quietly behind the scenes. He is preparing something extraordinary, something far beyond John's wildest hopes. Just as the tide ebbs and flows with perfect rhythm, so too does God's plan for John's life. It unfolds with precision, in the fullness of time. In this space between despair and hope, the seed of a miracle has already been planted. John's journey of waiting is not in vain. It is the very soil in which God's plan will soon take root. One evening, as the sky is painted in hues of gold and crimson, John stands at the edge of the shore, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The gentle waves mirror the fading light, and everything seems still, except for the stirring within John's heart. Amidst the quiet, something shifts. It's not the wind or the sea, but a whisper, soft, gentle, yet unmistakable. The voice is not external, but deep within his soul. It is the voice of God. God's voice. John, prepare yourself. The time is near. You have been faithful in the waiting. Now, your miracle is coming. But first, you must open your heart and trust in my timing.
Could it be? Is it really you, God?
For a moment, time seems to stop. The sound of the waves fades into the background as John's heart pounds in his chest. He stands frozen, as if the very earth beneath him has shifted. It is the voice he has longed to hear, the answer to his prayers. John is stunned, and yet, his spirit begins to stir, his soul awakening to something new. It is no longer just hope that fills him, it is certainty. The years of waiting have not been in vain. For the first time in years, John's heart races not with fear or doubt, but with belief. A belief not just in the possibility of a miracle, but in the certainty of it. God's voice is clear, the time is near. And though John does not yet know how or when, he now understands that the miracle is already on its way. His soul feels lighter, his spirit brighter, as if the burdens of the past have begun to fall away. For the first time, he sees beyond the horizon and feels the nearness of the divine. John is no longer just waiting for a miracle. He is preparing for it, as God's voice continues to echo in his heart. The night falls, but his spirit is filled with light, ready for the extraordinary that is about to unfold. The days that follow are not easy. Though John has heard God's promise, doubt begins to creep in. The world around him remains unchanged. The sea still stretches vast and silent, as it always has. The skies look the same, the winds blow no differently. Yet something within John has shifted. He is no longer the man he was. His spirit, once weary from waiting, is now renewed by God's words.
God said the miracle is coming, but how long must I wait? Days, weeks, months. How will I know when it's here?
Though the questions press in, John no longer feels the weight of despair. Instead, he carries with him a quiet resolve. He begins to prepare himself, not by grand gestures or extraordinary actions, but by trusting more deeply than he ever has before. Trusting in the one who spoke to him. Trusting in the divine timing that surpasses his understanding. God's voice. John, do not look for signs in the world. Look within. I am shaping you for something far greater than you can imagine. Trust in me. I am working even when you cannot see it. With these words echoing in his heart, John knows that his journey is not just about waiting for a miracle to manifest in the world around him. It is about allowing the miracle to unfold within him. Each day, he prays with a deeper fervor, his soul anchored in the promise that God has made. He realizes now that the miracle is not simply an event, a sudden shift in his circumstances. It is a transformation already at work in his heart, shaping him, molding him into something new. In the quiet moments of prayer, John begins to see that the waiting is not a burden, but a blessing. A time of preparation, a time of strengthening. As he trusts more deeply, his faith grows, not in the outward signs, but in the steady, unshakable presence of God within him.
I don't need to understand everything. God is with me, and that is enough.
And so, John walks the road of faith, not alone, but guided by the unseen hand of God. Each step is a step of trust, not in what he sees, but in what he knows deep within his soul. The miracle is coming, and when it does, John will be ready, not because he waited passively, but because he allowed God to work within him, preparing his heart for the extraordinary. Weeks pass, and the silence weighs heavily on John. The sky, once filled with light and warmth, grows dark. Storm clouds gather above the sea, mirroring the turmoil in John's heart. The waves crash against the shore with increasing intensity, as if the very world around him is in conflict. Yet, even in the storm, John feels something else, a quiet assurance, a gentle whisper that echoes through the chaos. Hold on. The miracle is near.
I thought it would be easier after hearing God's voice, but why is this so hard? The waiting, the silence, it feels unbearable. Wasn't I supposed to feel at peace after hearing his promise?
God's voice. Patience, John. This storm is not to harm you. It is to strengthen you. Can you trust me, even in the darkness? Even when the winds howl and the skies seem unyielding? Remember, I am with you in the storm. This too is part of the journey. Trust in my purpose. The words strike deep into John's soul. The storm outside reflects the storm within, doubt, fear, frustration. But as the winds howl and the waves crash, a deeper truth begins to settle in John's heart. God is not distant in the storm. He is present, guiding him, shaping him. This test of patience is not a punishment, but a preparation.
I have to trust. Even in this, even when it's hard, God is with me.
And so, John does. He holds on to God's promise, not with wavering faith, but with an unshakable trust. Each passing day, though filled with uncertainty, becomes a testament to his patience. The storm rages, but John's spirit remains anchored. For he knows that in the storm, God is refining him, strengthening him for the miracle that is drawing near. In the darkest moments, the seeds of transformation are sown. And John, with each day of waiting, is becoming more than he was before. He is being prepared, not just for a miracle, but for the purpose God has set before him. Then, one fateful morning, as the first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, something stirs deep within John's heart. He stands by the shore, watching the sea as he has done countless times before, but today is different. The air feels thick with expectancy, as if creation itself is holding its breath.
Could this be it? Is today the day?
His pulse quickens, and he scans the horizon eagerly. And then, there, in the distance, something shimmers on the surface of the water. The waves, once ordinary, begin to glow with a strange and radiant light. Slowly, a boat appears, cutting through the water like a vessel from another world. Its hull gleams with an ethereal glow, unlike anything John has ever seen. The light is soft, yet powerful, illuminating everything it touches. As the boat nears, John's breath catches in his throat. It's not just the boat that's glowing, it's the presence, the undeniable sense that something holy, something divine is drawing near. And then, from the boat, a voice calls out. Clear, joyful, and full of life. Messenger. John, your time has come. God has heard your prayers, and today, your miracle is here.
I knew it. I knew God would come through. After all this time, it's really happening.
Tears of joy stream down John's face as he steps closer to the water's edge. He feels the weight of all those years, the waiting, the doubt, the storms, falling away. His heart swells with gratitude, overflowing with the realization that this moment was always part of God's plan. But what John doesn't yet realize is that the miracle isn't just for him. As the boat draws closer, its light spreads across the shore, filling the entire landscape with a brilliance that takes John's breath away. This miracle is not just for the one who waited, but for all who have ever hoped, for all who have believed, for all who have held on to faith even when the world around them seemed to offer none. The light from the boat extends beyond John, touching the lives of those around him, those he never knew were watching, waiting, and praying for a sign. The miracle, though personal, is universal in its power.
Thank you, God, for this moment. For this miracle.
And as John steps forward, embracing the miracle that has come, he knows that the waiting was never in vain. He was not just being prepared for a miracle, he was being prepared to become part of something much greater. For through his faith, through his patience, he has not only received a miracle, he has become a vessel for others to witness the power of God. As John receives his miracle, standing in the glow of God's divine presence, he begins to understand something deeper, something more profound than he ever expected. The miracle, as wondrous as it is, was not just in the event itself. It wasn't only in the glowing boat or the voice from heaven. No, the true miracle was in the journey of faith that brought him here.
All those days of waiting, they weren't wasted. The prayers, the doubts, the silence. God was with me the entire time, shaping me, strengthening me, preparing me for this moment. I wasn't just waiting for a miracle. I was being prepared for it.
And in that moment of reflection, John sees the journey with new eyes. What once seemed like endless waiting was, in fact, a divine process. God had been working all along, not just to deliver a miracle, but to transform John into someone ready to receive it. Each prayer, each moment of struggle, was part of a greater plan. A plan not just to fulfill a desire, but to build faith that could withstand anything.
I see now. God wasn't just answering my prayers. He was teaching me to trust Him completely, in every moment. The waiting, the storms, they were part of the miracle.
John's heart is full, not only with joy but with understanding. His story, once marked by frustration and uncertainty, now shines as a beacon of hope for others. His journey is proof that when God speaks, His promises are certain. The miracle is not always what we expect, but it is always exactly what we need. And so, John's story spreads far beyond his small life. It touches the lives of others, those still waiting, still hoping, still struggling to hold on. His story becomes a reminder that God's timing is perfect, and His promises never fail. What we see as delay, He sees as preparation. What we think of as silence, He knows as the time of shaping. And when the miracle comes, it is not just the answer to a prayer, it is the fulfillment of a journey of faith. Today, as you listen to this message, God is saying the same to you. Prepare for your miracle. The waiting may seem long, and the journey may feel difficult, but know this: God is working in ways you cannot yet see. Every moment of doubt, every tear, every prayer whispered in the silence, God has heard them all. He is weaving your story together in perfect timing. Trust Him. Prepare your heart. For when the time comes, you will not only receive the miracle, you will be transformed by it. Just as John's journey wasn't only about the miracle but the change within him, so too is your path. What may seem like a delay is God's divine preparation, shaping you for something far greater than you could ever imagine. God's voice. My child, do not lose hope. I am with you, even in the waiting. Every step, every moment of silence, I am there. Your miracle is near. Do not be afraid, for I am about to do something new in your life, something that will exceed your expectations and fulfill the promises I have spoken over you. Prepare yourself, for I am with you always. So, as you walk through the seasons of waiting, know that you are not alone. Trust in the one who holds your future. Just as John found his miracle when the time was right, so too will you. And when that miracle arrives, it will not only change your circumstances, it will change you. The miracle is near. Prepare your heart and trust in God's perfect timing. So, are you ready? Are you prepared for the miracle God has for you? The journey may be long, the road uncertain, but never forget, God is faithful. He sees your struggles, He hears your prayers, and He is working in ways you cannot yet imagine. Even in the silence, He is shaping you for what's to come. Hold on to His promises. Trust in His timing. And know that no matter how long the waiting may seem, your breakthrough is coming. The same God who spoke to John, the same God who brought miracles to the faithful throughout history, is preparing one for you. Prepare for a miracle. Trust in the one who never fails. For when His promise comes to pass, you will see that every moment of waiting, every prayer, every tear was leading you to this glorious moment of transformation. Are you ready? Your miracle is closer than you think.